Hello and welcome to another episode of the In Discussion series. This week I have Josh with me, the third model out of the series. So thank you very much for being here.
Last, but by all means, not least.
Definitely not the least.
Thank you for having me.
So when we were originally talking about the collection and you potentially coming on board, what ultimately was the reason that you said yes?
We'd previously been in discussions about the old collection as well, and about me coming on board to model for that. And I was naturally very keen back then. So when the opportunity arose to work on this collection, I was like, I'm going to jump in and I want to make up for the fact that I wasn't able to do the last one, So that was predominantly the sort of driving force behind my head. I was like, wow, I don't want to miss out on this one. Let's go. Like, I want to do it. I want to collaborate with you and work with you on this project in whatever means or shape or form that takes.
It was really interesting, I think, having those early discussions, as you say, from the last collection, and then it was really good that we could make that happen. So of the whole experience, now it's passed and you've had time to absorb the day and kind of leading up to the things. What about the whole experience working on this has been the most interesting or exciting for you?
I mean, naturally, shoot days are always exciting, regardless of any sort of eventualities that happen. The weather was a fun thing to deal with, the security guards and permission to do photos as well, a few spanners that we had to sort of duck and dive around. But I think ultimately it will always be the shoot days in terms of being the most interesting aspect of doing a project like this. I feel like something that's worth mentioning is that like the response that I've gotten just from my own sort of following on Instagram and reposting a lot of the amazing photos that we've captured of the collection, it has been overwhelmingly positive and overwhelmingly like excited and amazed, and people like resharing all the things as well that I didn't really expect to reshare. And I was like, this is great.
I think looking back for me, that's probably been the most surprising thing. You're never kind of sure that you've got something great until it's out into the world and you see those responses. So it's been a really interesting aspect. I also blocked out the security guard, probably for the best.
Yeah. I mean, it was all fine in the end. Those fun little challenges just to really make you work that bit harder to get what we needed to get. And what we got was absolute gold.
Yeah. That in mind as well, thinking about the shoot day or the experience leading up to it, and as we thought about already as well, the aftermath. Is there anything about the whole experience that you'd have been in my shoes? Would you have approached anything in a different way? And if so, why?
Quite an interesting question. I don't think I've actually really sort of thought about that. I think predominantly because it was all run very well, open and honest in terms of communication, in terms of expectation, and then just to also really sort of see the sort of drive from you on the other end of it with the content and everything that's been pushed out there. I mean, if I was going to like really fine pick, I guess, if you are asking me the question, so I'm going to fine pick here. Potentially on the shoot day, you as the lead creative on it, slightly hands off, which is fine. It's a nice laid back attitude to have, but this is your design. So I don't know, I think maybe in my mind I expect you to be a little bit more hands on. But again, everyone is different. Everyone has different styles, but making sure in terms of the direction to the photographer and the person that you're working with and to the model is quite concise. And this is what I want, just to make sure you're capturing what you want in your mind. Obviously, I know we did and we got that. And perhaps that's maybe just putting a bit more faith in people that you're working with, like myself, James, the photographer. It just goes to show that, you can put faith in the people that you're working with and it pay off. But I know that sometimes that's not necessarily always the case.
Yeah, I talked with Shaq in the previous episode about bringing this idea from the previous collection of it being very collaborative, and so allowing people that space to do what they wanted to do within the confines of, as you say, those expectations that were there. Appreciate that. I think on the day I was very much trying to make everybody happy and juggling and running to make sure the people that weren't being photographed at the time were also content and warm, as it ended up being.
Hey, I mean, I came prepared. Maybe the other models, not trying to bash anyone here, but maybe the other models didn't come prepared, didn't look at the weather forecast ahead of coming to the shoot. But, I had my bloody ski jacket with me because I knew what the weather was going to be like. So I was like, well, I'm prepared. Don't know about you.
It's a good observation. I like that. But I agree with thinking to future things, having a bit more of a direct hand, a bit more oversight, not quite full control, but certainly guidance. That's a good thing to have in mind.
Guidance for sure. There's certain expectations and things that you really wanted to capture. A lot of it was getting closer elements of the knitwear itself, and that was something that you got. Lighter elements in terms of like positioning or modeling and everything else was a bit more sort of like, let's go with the flow. I'm nitpicking here. I am nitpicking.
So I feel like I possibly already know a little bit of the answer to this, but given your experience and the enjoyment it seems that you had throughout the whole thing, would you then recommend to work with me?
No, because I want to work with you. So I'm not going to recommend anyone in case they take my position and my spot. I want to carry on working with you in whatever capacity you would deem worthy. No, absolutely. Of course I would. Throughout, I think it's always been an incredibly enjoyable experience. It's always nice to work with nice people. It just is.
Yeah.
It just really, really is. And I think with the experiences that I have and everything else, and ultimately you do end up just wanting to work with nice people. You do. And so you end up sort of gravitating closer to those sort of people that you enjoy working with, and whatever sort of capacity it ends up developing into, you sort of hold on to those sort of people. I look forward to the phone call when you go, so I've got this idea. I want to do this thing. And I'm going to be like, I'm listening. How are we going to do this thing? Yeah, I also do really appreciate being involved from the outset as well, in terms of chatting about photographers, chatting about how to go about delivering it, chatting about budgetary things, and sort of being able to put you in contact with James and being able to sort of connect different people together. Honestly, it's a real pleasure of mine. Maybe I'm a psychopath in that manner of like, sort of like bringing people together and being like, right, you're great. Yeah, okay, you're great as well. I'm going to bring you guys together. We're going to see what happens. I do really enjoy being able to sort of bring cool and nice people together and see if we can work together collaboratively and see what we can create. Yeah, that was a very long-winded answer.
Definitely appreciate that from both standpoints. It's always nice to hear people that have enjoyed their experience in the first instance, but then would be eager to come back in. So we'll definitely make that happen. And I also appreciate that aspect as well of gravitating towards nice people, or people that put out this really good vibe and energy, and that element of having contacts that you can build upon. So you've brought this to me now, and I know these people, I might recommend them again. So it creates this really positive network of people.
Absolutely. And I think as well, because there's always different levels and developments, I think often, particularly for smaller brands like yourself and smaller startups, essentially, there isn't a lot of money. You're always going to be really choice about like where you spend your money and where you put it. And then being able to have a sort of network of people that you can rely on. It is essentially sort of like creative favors, you know? I'm always happy to work with you. And then I know that I can always sort of call on you. If you're free and if you're available, you will be there, and in whatever capacity to sort of help me out with whatever crazy creative endeavors that I've got going on. And that to me, I think is also really, really special. Really, really important as well, because as much as there are projects where we have, you know, an infinite budget, and that's wonderful, rare, one day we'll see. You know, there's always going to be a small independent project or like passion project that you just need that extra pair of hands to help sort of deliver. So I think it's really important that you have that sort of collective of people that you can rely on, and you can exchange the creative favor between.
And they're also more creative as well in the process of actually making those small projects happen, because there isn't the budget. I think that's what's been really exciting about all of the things I've done over the last 3 years now, is that so much of it is born out of how can I do this without it costing me any money, and is often much more exciting than having £1 million behind me for marketing, because maybe not become lazy, but certainly everything's easier. So why try for the extra elements? Why do something weird? Why find the odd locations, that sort of thing? And then, as you say, drawing on contacts and favors in a really good way as well. Lastly then, you actually probably wore the most pieces for the shoot, and you were also actually quite happy to wear anything.
Or nothing.
Yeah, well, that's it.
So
is there something that is your favorite?
I think for me, there's got to be, I got to have two.
I'll let you have two.
And it's the piece that you're wearing here with the pants. The second piece would be the grey like skirt shirt thing, which was great. I think also I'm just very happy with how the photos turned out of me in it. So I think that made me like it more.
It always helps.
Yeah, I think that does help. I think the same for this outfit as well. But they felt, one, obviously very comfortable. Two, I look great in them. Yeah, so those are the two elements for me. But I went tick, tick, great. Well, that's my favorite right there.
Sold.
Sold.
Yeah,
sold.
It's a good way to look at things. Well, thank you very much for being involved and for your future involvement as well. I'm pre-thanking you for that. It'll be exciting to see what we do next as well.
No, thank you so much for having me.
So check out the next episode when that goes live, and I'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.